Spoiler warning, this video does contain story spoilers, but only for the first season of the Wheel of Time TV show on Amazon Prime, and for the first book of the series, The Eye of the World. Some minor world building and backstory will be discussed, but no story or plot spoilers beyond the first season and first book will be revealed. If you haven't yet watched the first season of The Wheel of Time, consider watching my WoT 101 playlist of videos, or my other spoiler-free content instead. At the end of episode 6 of season 1, the group find themselves in need of a Waygate, so they can travel quickly from Tar Valon to a place in the Great Blight far to the north, called the Eye of the World. They recruit an Ogier called Loyal, who acts as their guide. A Waygate is an opening or doorway that allows entry to a place called the Ways. There are many Waygates spread across the world that are interconnected by the Ways. Loyal says the Ways are ancient pathways out of time and space. The official Amazon Prime trivia says, by using the Ways, one can travel across a continent in a day's time. To put this in perspective, it took the group roughly 30 to 40 days to get from here, the two rivers, to here in Tar Valon, and many of them traveled by horseback. Then, after entering the Waygate, they traveled on foot for just 1 or maybe 2 days through the Ways and arrived at a Waygate near Faldara, which is about half the distance between Tar Valon and the two rivers on the map. The Wheel of Time companion says, a day's walking inside the Ways might carry the traveler to a destination hundreds of miles away, but strangely sometimes a more distant place could be reached more quickly than one that was nearer. Loyal mentioned that the Ways are ancient pathways. Over 3,000 years earlier, during a time of chaos and upheaval, men who could channel Saidin, the male half of the One Power, were going mad and destroying the world. This time of madness and the destruction that followed was called the Breaking of the World. I discussed the reasons for this in greater detail in my WoT 101 videos about the history of the Wheel of Time and about the One Power. During that time, some of the male Aes Sedai sought shelter in places where they were incapable of accessing the source of the One Power. They thought that if they could not touch the One Power, that they might avoid the madness that came from the corruption or taint placed on Saidin by the Dark One. These places of refuge were the homes of the Ogier and were called steading. The companion says, steading had special properties, including the inability of a channeler to use the One Power within their boundaries. Aes Sedai also hated entering a steading. Not only could they not channel there, but they could not even feel the true source. I'll discuss Ogier and steading more in a future 201 video. The male channelers who sought refuge in the steading did not last long, and eventually they left, hoping that the corruption was gone. Sadly, it wasn't, and they all eventually succumbed to the madness and continued their destruction of the world. However, before they went completely mad, the male Aes Sedai created the Ways and gifted the Ogier with a special Terre Angreal, or powerful object made from the One Power, called the Talisman of Growing. With this Terre Angreal, the Ogier were able to grow Waygates just outside of many of the steading across the land. The Ways were used by Ogier and humans to safely travel all across the world between steading. Originally, the inside of the Ways were well lit and beautiful, covered with grasses, flowers, and fruit trees. They were composed of a series of pathways, ramps, and islands that seemed to float in the air unsupported. Each island had a guiding stone containing directions inscribed with Ogier script. But because the Ways were created with the tainted male half of the One Power, the companion says that over time they deteriorated, growing dank and dim. Machin Shin, the Black Wind, appeared, and travelers in the Ways increasingly disappeared or emerged in a demented state. Now, 3,000 years later, the islands are pockmarked and corrupted. Traveling the Ways is extremely dangerous, and the Talisman of Growing hasn't been used by the Ogier to make new Waygates since the Ways darkened. While the Ogier no longer used the Ways for travel, it was revealed in episode 7 that Trollocs and Myrddraal, Shadowspawn or creatures of the Dark One, have started using the Ways to travel across the continent undetected by Aes Sedai and the nations of the world. There's an ancient Waygate near the two rivers, at a place that was once called Manetheren, where the Trollocs likely entered the region just before their attack on Winternight. The Waygates and the Ways themselves, as well as the soul-sucking Black Wind entity Machin Shin, are described quite differently in the books from how they're portrayed in the TV show. For example, in the books, the Waygates are described as thick stone doorways with carved vines or branches that are modeled after an ancient tree of life called Avendasora. These Waygates can be opened by anybody, even those who cannot channel the One Power, so long as a special trefoil leaf-shaped stone key can be found on the outside of the gate. One simply has to remove the trefoil leaf key and replace it into a similar notch just below to activate and open the Waygate. The vines, or carved branches in the stone doors, appear to come to life as if moving in a subtle breeze, and the doors slowly swing open, revealing a murky, mirror-like surface that can be passed through to enter the ways. As they pass through, they feel a sort of time dilation or stretching sensation. It is described as feeling like passing through a wall of cold water. In the show, the Waygates appear to be more like pillars, likely inspired by ancient Hindu architecture, like this doorway from Indonesia. This photo was posted on Instagram by Rafe Judkins, the showrunner, when the writers of the first season went on a retreat there. According to Wikipedia, there's a type of split gateway called a Kandi Bentar that is a common Javanese and Balinese entrance into religious compounds and temples. The passage is usually elevated with a flight of stairs to reach it. We don't know why they decided to change the design and function of the Waygates in the TV show, but so far, as they've been presented in the show, it appears as though the Waygates can be opened without a key by channeling the One Power. I have a personal theory about why this was changed, but it's only speculation. I discussed this more in my episode 7 breakdown video, but in a nutshell, I suspect that due to Barney Harris, the actor who plays Matt Cawthon, leaving the show before episodes 7 and 8 were filmed, they had to come up with a reason for why the characters couldn't just reopen the Waygate and go and retrieve Matt. There's a behind-the-scenes photo on the Amazon Prime Explore page for episode 7, where we see Padam Fain holding a trefoil leaf-shaped key as he exits the Waygate near Faldara. This was cut from the show, but it furthers my suspicions that they originally planned to incorporate some elements of the book version of the Waygates with the Avendasora trefoil leaf keys. It's also possible that we will see more of this revealed over the course of the TV show in future seasons. Perhaps channeling the One Power is just one of the ways to activate a Waygate in the show. Did you notice the shape of the flows of power when Moraine channeled to open the Waygate in episode 6? It looks like a trefoil leaf shape. The online trivia for episode 7 says, a Waygate can be permanently locked, but most Ogier hesitate to tell the secret of how. So this implies to me that there is more to come that hasn't yet been revealed in the show. This also explains how the Trollocs and Myrddraal and Padam Fain were able to travel through the ways without using the One Power. Because entrance to the ways is extremely dangerous, and anybody could potentially open the Waygates with the trefoil leaf key, in the books, most Waygates are either buried in cellars, covered by walls or other man-made architecture, or they're even gated, almost with no trespassing signs around them. They certainly aren't out in the open in the same way that they're presented in the TV show. In the books, the ways are pitch black, with absolutely no light and very little sound, and no barrier to protect people or horses from falling into the void between time and space. Likely those who do fall off the edge never land on another surface, and probably die either from starvation or by going mad falling into an endless abyss. The group must bring lanterns on long poles, and the darkness of the ways seems to press in on the light, limiting visibility and sound more than it should. Visually for the show, pitch black is probably pretty boring and feels unrealistic, and they didn't want to shoot the scenes of the ways in caves because they wanted them to look like they were created or designed and not just natural rock formations. So they created a really fascinating modular system of rocky pillar hexagonal pieces and gave a bit more of an atmosphere to the ways, with lightning occasionally striking in the distance. They also chose to leave the horses behind, probably for safety reasons. I personally love the look and feel of the ways in the show, but I do wish that we could have seen more branching pathways, broken ramps, and oddly floating islands and levels. I also wish that it had felt a bit less like it was just one continuous straight pathway from points A to B. I discuss more of this in my episode 7 breakdown video. Machin Shin, the Black Wind, is also portrayed differently from book to screen. In the Eye of the World, the sound of the wind is terrifying because there isn't any other sound in the ways, and when it does appear, it seems to lack sentience, screaming and howling with horrific voices of death and decay. In the books, it isn't attracted to the One Power, but rather just sort of mindlessly wanders the ways, hoping to find souls to consume. The Black Wind is described as a mind and soul-eating parasite. While the origins of the Black Wind are unknown, the Wheel of Time Companion speculates that Machin Shin was possibly a corrupted form of a natural parasite that once lived within the ways, or it says it could also be a remnant of something that got lost or trapped within the ways from a time 3,000 years past, called the War of the Shadow. In the TV show, Loyal claims that reopening the Waygate from inside would be impossible, or at least very dangerous, because any use of the One Power within the ways would attract the attention of Machin Shin, essentially inviting it to feast on their souls. In the books, the use of the One Power in the ways is not what attracts the Black Wind. I think this change is also directly related to having to rewrite the last 2 episodes because of losing a major cast member. I think they needed to devise a way to prevent reopening the Waygate where Matt was. In the first book, Moiraine chooses not to channel the One Power within the Ways, not for fear of attracting Machin Shin, but for a different reason. She says that she can feel the corruption of the power that was used to make the Ways. Even though the female half of the One Power, Saidar, is not tainted as the male half is, Moiraine claims that any channeling of the One Power within the Ways would surely be corrupted. Later in the book, Machin Shin does find them just as they're about to exit the Waygate near Faldara, but they find no trefoil leaf key, and Moiraine is forced to use the One Power to blast a hole through the Waygate for them to escape. Rand describes Moraine's channeling of flame within the Ways as corrupted and sickly yellow. That's nothing like the pure white flame that he had seen her channel previously outside of the Ways. They do eventually escape through the opening that Moiraine burns into the Waygate. Luckily, the Black Wind is unable to leave the Ways, even with a hole in the Waygate, and the group barely make it out with their souls intact. They do hear the voices of the Black Wind, but again, it's very different from its portrayal in the show. The writers and production designers used the Black Wind as a sort of storytelling technique to help show the audience some of the deepest, darkest thoughts of the characters who are caught in the wind. They chose to make it a physical thing, but also a mental or psychological device. Rather than a sort of mindless terror that screams with countless voices of the souls it has previously consumed, the Black Wind of the show really digs deep into the characters' personal thoughts and talks to them in their own voices. I actually really like this change personally, because so much of the books are internal monologue, and I thought it was a brilliant way to not only help us understand what the characters' fears are, but it also was a smart way to reveal the identity of the Dragon Reborn. I discussed this at length in my episode 7 breakdown video. What did you think about the changes between the TV show and the books regarding the Waygates, the Ways, and the Black Wind? Remember, these WoT 201 videos are meant for new fans of the show and books, so please keep major plot-related spoilers past the first season and first book out of the comments. If you like what I do here, please consider supporting me on Patreon or on YouTube for as little as $1 per month. As always, for more quality Wheel of Time videos, please consider liking and subscribing, and check out the related videos or playlists here. All related topics are listed in the video description with additional videos and links. Thanks for watching.